gradation. Then in the background page, you load in 3 lines and fade it in again, just showing how you can do a build. The
Toaster toolkit, right?
yeah, Toaster toolkit for sequencing.
But you can't really pop those instantaneously. There's no way to do that.
Sure. Well, I mean, there's the load time, about 2 seconds in between. But, you know, you're doing a build, you have to read the line anyway. But you can cut instead of doing it in the back if you want. And mixing text and line. Well, I want to change type styles and colors on the line. Well, besides being horrible fashion sense to do that in an actual CG page, I used to work in broadcast television. You never do that on a Chiron, unless it's a really bad car commercial. But what you can do is take those pages, load them right into Paint. You render out the text, move them around, mix the colors and lines together. So this is the workaround for that. Of course, the benefits, thing I always hit on, we got a linear keyer built into that. That's a minimum $15,000 item usually on a broadcast CG. The transparent drop down is always rendered out over live video on the camera that's looking at me, move my fingers. See, you can see my fingers through the drop shadow. That's 20K right there to have that kind of feature built into a CG. It's easy to use because I've been showing them pointing my finger at the screen, combining with switcher effects, software loadable fonts. Once again, on a floppy, pull out the Takara fonts, pull out the bread and butter fonts, and I'll say, see, just add fonts. You know, with the Chiron, you got to get new chips a lot of times to go into these things. They're real expensive here. It's like broadcast guys say, oh, there's 30 fonts in this set for $100. They're like, I pay $500 per font on my, you know, it's true. So it just kills them. And then, of course, a 35 nanosecond broadcast resolution. 35 nanoseconds, that's the same resolution the network guys use for broadcast CGs from New York head end. What you see on Monday Night Football is 35 nanosecond resolution font. So, moving on to Toaster Paint. And once again, be sure just to throw in these kind of benefit things, these things that are unique to Toaster every time you go through a demo section. Demo techniques, I like the Kiki black and white frame store. It's on all the systems in there. You can go in, you can colorize the thing. You can show transparency by doing the colorizing. You can do redo. That's real cool. I go in and colorize the lips, or I colorize the eye by surrounding it and then show them how the different transparency levels and things work. Then I spend a long time like going around the lips real carefully to get a nice thing. And I say, now I colorized that, looks pretty good. I hit the scissors, hit redo. I didn't have to outline it again. I just changed my mode function and hit redo. Cups them out. Now I've got them and I can go start planting them on her forehead. It's a lot of fun for a demo, but it may not be, if they're really interested in paint, that may not be the only demo thing you want to do. You want to show other stuff, but the really cool things about Toaster Paint, and what I concentrate on in terms of the benefits, is that it is a video-oriented paint program. It's not like a computer paint program on your Mac. This thing that specializes in blending, colorizing, tinting, transparency. It's a compositing tool. Most network paintbox artists do not spend time creating original art. They steal from the real world, so we have a frame grabber built into the Toaster. So have a copy stand if you can at your demo station set up. Particularly if you can get the client's logo before they come in for the demo, you can have already grabbed it in and done things with it. Plus it's real handy to like grab their business card or something right in front of them, grab the frame. But this show, sometimes if you don't, you can work with a picture, you've already grabbed it, but you have the picture there in the copy stand, so they get the idea. Oh, there was the original, and they grabbed it earlier. They're working with it. But, excuse me? Well, yeah, okay, it's the old Julia Child, you know. And now, 35 minutes later, it comes out of the oven. You know, so you never want to have them wait through a frame grab process or other things like that. That's what we call one in the oven. We've always got one done. A lot of times we'll have a demo tape running in the booth, so we're showing scene in Lightwave of the logo animated and everything, and we just click over to the other video source, and here's the finished animation. What does it look like? You know, that's a great thing to do. Have a tape ready to load of the finished thing. So it's one in the oven. Sorry, sort of code name for that. The other thing is having a cartoon ready to go. When I was growing up, there was the Sheriff John show, and Sheriff John would come out and explain some things and have a cartoon ready to go. So you can mix up your demo with cool videos like, well, you know, there's an interesting high school in our area that did some really great videos. Let me show you a little 30-second clip of some stuff that they did. So mix it up. Just you talking is kind of boring. So so that's the big benefit behind Toaster Paint. It's really designed to do what NTSC video artists do. It's not an RGB paint system really. It's designed to do that blending, shading, transparency, compositing sort of stuff. That's what it's really powerful at. One of the big objections to it, well, gee, it's not full screen. Well, what did you need full screen for? I want to be able to position that over the shoulder graphic and other stuff. Great opportunity to go into either the full screen mode in Toaster Paint and show that you can just outline that area in one color. You now have it positioned where you want it, then go back into the zoom up mode, scroll over there, and then just fill it in with the texture map cut out. The other thing you do is Deluxe Paint. Go into Deluxe Paint and 16 colors, create, well, I'm going to want this line of stuff here, I'm going to want this thing here, and that thing there. It's all just done in one color. And loaded into Toaster Paint, you're zooming around and scrolling around the screen, but everything's in the right place. So let me just outline that area again and fill it in with 24 bits of ranged color now, and then render it out. So usually the big complaint is it's not full screen if they want it positioned stuff. So that's a way to get around that. And obviously we know about all these problems, and we're thinking about them very hard, and you feel real bad about them. But they have workarounds, so there shouldn't be any reason that you're not selling Toaster because of these. Okay, Lightwave, real quick, demo techniques for that. One thing with Lightwave, if they don't have some familiarity with this or some interest in 3D, kind of try to stay away from it or getting into it real heavily. Especially if you're a Lightwave enthusiast guy or your salesman is a Lightwave enthusiast, they could just kill people with this. I mean, it's like, boy, it sure is neat, but I don't understand what the hell it does. You can come out of that. So one thing that we do is that we animate the NewTek logo objects in the tutorials directory under 2.0. Reason for that, of course, is in addition to be self-promotional, is that it doesn't have very many polygons in it, but it looks real nice. So you can move it around real quick in the wireframe screen. And go into layout and just do a simple layout demo with them. Put it here, make a keyframe at frame 30, and just have the object move. Then just render it out as a preview and then show them the playback of that. Then insert a keyframe at 15 and have it move around and show how it adjusts that motion. And then at frame 30, turn it around. So it's going up here, turning around, and landing there. Then turn on the camera and the lights, and then look at it from the, I was explaining, here's the director's eye view, here's the view through the camera, and then put the lights in and then track the lights in the camera to the object, and then you move the object around and they see the lights and camera all moving to follow it, and say, see, happens just like magic. No matter where I move the object, the cameras and lights follow. So easy, anybody can do this. And then you animate it from the director's eye view and they see the lights in the camera and everything moving, going with the object. Just blows them away. It's just incredible. And then usually at the end of the demo, I point out, doing this whole thing, I haven't touched the keyboard. All works with the mouse. So it just looks real easy, and then I take one frame of that NewTek logo and just render it out. And you may have a real glorious frame done up, NewTek logo, and get some nice background and other stuff. But I usually just render out one frame fairly low res, it can look pretty good, and then load in a real high res one that I've already done. Which one I say, this one took about 5 minutes, a better one. We do one real quick in 30 seconds, show them how it renders. Nice thing is when you do real quick in 30 seconds, do it on a black background. When you're done with your Lightwave demo, come back to Switcher, key it, and then start flying it around. One thing people, well, don't I need a single frame controller to do any kind of animation? Take one of these trajectory effects with that NewTek logo keyed over live video, fly it in. If they're a midline industrial or lower end video house, that's going to blow them away. No single frame controller required. Will your clients buy that? Oh yeah, they'd love that. It's a moving logo. That's a flying logo. No single frame controller. They love it. It never occurred to me. I have people, it shows, it's going to tell me, well, that's what I need. That's all, I don't need a single frame controller. That's the animation I want. Wow, if I'd only known, So, some cool tricks are in there. Make a polygon and use texture auto sizing. You can grab the frame store of their logo or some other things. You can actually just map it right onto something to show texture mapping. Another thing to look at is loading in like the urn or another object and just texture mapping, real simple stuff in low res, and changing the texture map attributes so they can see how you can change from wood to marble to your face on there. Okay, Lightwave is the funniest thing. Injections can be slow and hard to learn. The benefits are fast and easy to learn. It really depends totally on their point of view here. If they know anything about 3D, they will be blown through the carpet, out of their tube socks, how fast and powerful Lightwave really is. If they don't know much about 3D, they might think it's kind of hard. If they know anything about 3D, that's just sounds singular night. It's like, well, Lightwave, somebody said, Lightwave's not wavefront. And I used to think that too. I go to SIGGRAPH and NAB every year. Last NAB, I actually went with a friend of mine in the 3D industry, and my feet were really tired, and actually sat through the whole wavefront demo. I've never done that one. I just walked by their booth. They have a guy there spends an hour, goes through the whole program and show you stuff. I never realized Lightwave kills wavefront. It is so much easier to use. That program is impossible to figure out. It's a Unix shell. I mean, wavefront sucks. If you have never seen it, it sucks. Don't think it's great. Lightwave is so powerful, and the new stuff that's being worked on blows it away even more. I mean, it's like, wow, Lightwave is really an incredible thing. And there's a whole market you can sell into just with lightweight architecture, with visualization, landscaping, interior design, all these people. All you have to do is come up with a really cool demo and show them how they can use it. And you're set. So, that's the selling demo. Good luck.
What do you think about that presentation?
Very good.
How many people, just by raise of hand, would like to see that taken and made maybe into like a 2-hour with actually showing all the different things? Him on tape. How many people would like that?
Yeah.
Now, is he enthusiastic about the product? What do you think? Little.
Oh, it's just a job, you know?
Well, I blew it. I should have finished all my stuff because now you'll really snore through the rest of this. But I'll try to get you back into it. We're going to finish up here in 10 to 15 minutes. Since Mark's talked for about half an hour, I haven't had half an hour, maybe even 45 minutes to be controversial on some of this stuff, so I'd like to get you mad at me again. And I want to do that by talking about installation, service, and training. And want to talk again, put you back into your little groups and talk about what do you do with installation, service, and training. Now, here's some of the questions I'd like you to talk about in your group. How much do you charge for it, or do you charge for it? Do you include it in the quote, or do you have it separate? Do you charge a different price for people that come to you that didn't purchase from you versus people that did purchase for you? Do you charge a separate price for installation? Does anybody here do service contract? Okay, so let's just spend a couple minutes and see if you can just kind of chat in your groups again about some of those kinds of questions. Okay. Remember, anyone that listens to me for another 10 minutes gets a special present, so don't fade out yet. What are we hearing about? Let's just start with the first thing on installation. How many people charge for installation? And how do you do that?
Upfront.
Up front? What's it cost?
Depends on the proposal.
Okay, so it's something per hour, or it's how do you do it?
I do by hour,
By the hour. What do you charge?
55 an hour.
55 an hour. Okay, and how do you do it?
I look at the whole proposal and put in the cables and so forth that's required in it also,
Okay.
and make that a total turnkey package.
Okay. Totally.
And put a fee down there, and it usually is.
Yeah, but a lot of people don't charge for installation. How can you charge? A lot of people say they'll install for free. Huh?
I warranty.
What?
I warranty.
You warranty your work.
We incorporate it into the training package. If you want, our training includes the installations. And we
Okay.
really try to sell them both as a package.
Okay. So how many
Don't
people?
require installation. Some people don't need the installation.
Some people don't require it.
And
Okay.
it's not included. You have to kind of adjust it to the particular person that can use it.
Okay.
Fine.
Okay. How about training? How many people include
Same
training in
situation.
quotes?
When it's needed.
Not everybody. Interesting.
There are some people that don't need training also.
Now, who would not need training?
The guy from the next state called up looking for a low price.
The guy that says he doesn't need training.
The guy who already has a toaster.
Computer oriented.
The expert is not going to be convinced for him.
The expert that already knows. And how did he learn about the toaster?
He went out for video.
Probably hasn't bought one yet, though.
Yeah, they're gonna need it.
Who said that? They're going to need it sometime.
That's probably true.
Yeah. Okay. And how many people include training with the price of the system? Okay. Let's talk about that. So it's just like $6,000 for a system
Right. 2 hours of training
with 2 hours of training.
and systems configured.
Okay. And you said you do that too. How do you do that?
Well, my competition gives about 2 or 3 hours of training. So what I try and do is better that by giving them between 4 to 6 hours of training included. What I tell my clients is in 2 or 3 hours, there's no way that you're going to learn everything that you need to know. You'll barely learn Amiga DOS in 2 or 3 hours.
Okay,
So we
so
try and give you more training.
You've got a $6,000 system, and the person comes back and says, "Well, I don't need the training. What's your cost? I want lowest cost, lowest price here."
Well, what I try and do is I try and show them the value of everything else that we have to offer, including service contracts, classroom that we have where we do more training, either in a group or, you know, individual training. And if they just want price, I'll show them the door.
How much do people charge for training?
$50 to $75 to $100 an hour.
52, 75, 100, okay?
125 an hour.
125 an hour? 100 an hour? 50 an hour? Okay, boy, wide range. How can you charge one person different than the other? How do you do that? 50, 75, or 100?
Well, we try and qualify. If it's like a Fortune 1000 customer, then we'll go for $100 an hour. If it's you know, someone who's just a small business, then we'll, you know, give them a break. If it's on site, it might be a different fee.
I think you've got some real problems with how you price your training. Because it's going to get around that they'll charge based upon what you can pay. It also, when you include it, from all the people we've talked to, when you include it in the base price, I think it devalues the training. And you get more people that are come and look and say, oh, you know, his training must not be very good because, you know, it's all included in the price. The other thing I wonder is, how do you know how many hours of training somebody needs? And what if they want more? And how do you figure out what they should be charged for the more? I'm just cautioning you that I think you're going to have real problems, or maybe you already do, as a perception in the marketplace, if you're charging different people. Unless it's the difference between customers that bought from you and someone who didn't buy from you. I think you can do it there. I don't think there's a problem. But if you're doing it a different way, I think you're devaluing, because I don't think your staff can really know what to charge for training. And then you don't really get into training. Does that make sense to people?
Yeah.
Now you guys charge, what do you say?
We charge 125 if it's at the customer's site during our normal business hours, or during our normal business hours, and it's 75 if it's not during normal business hours. If the salesman wants to take his free time, you know, my off hours, and I can do that. It still goes to something says.
Did you guys hear that? 125 if it's during business hours and 75 hours if it's
Because it
not?
takes the salesman off the floor.
Should
Again,
be more.
It's a small customer.
Should be more if it's not business hours.
It's the salesman's choice.
This is an argument that we had.
Yeah, we've already had this
Going in,
argument.
saying
It's a
your back
salesman's
ass
choice.
when it's like that.
All right, what is it? Can we give them some input? What do we think of that concept? Does that make
It should be
sense?
more money if it's after hours. It should be more money because it's more of an inconvenience for
You want my
for us.
county people to come during their off hours, you gotta pay them more. You know, we're worth a lot more. Our job during regular hours is to sell you product or sell you a training. I know it's hard when you're short staffed, but.
How many hours do we put in our training in our training? How many hours do you guys put in?
It depends on the customer.
4 hours?
And then from there, you know, there's the additional charge for, you know, that's just strictly on the customer.
Right.
That's not on the rest of the system.
Okay. All right, and the 4 hours, how do you do it in your quotes? Is it a separate line
It's a
item?
separate
or-
line item.
All right. How else, what other kinds of time do people put in their quotes?
Training classes.
Training classes, well, now, how would you do that, Rich?
We offer 3 levels of classes, 6 hours, at $80.
80 bucks
For up to 6 people.
per person. So, but if it's only one person, I'm sorry, I'm not following.
$80,
80 bucks, and that, how long is that?
6 hours.
A 6-hour class for 80 bucks.
It's too cheap. It's too cheap.
What do you guys think of that?
That's
I have to wash my car. 6 hours.
Yeah, really. Okay, and how else do you do it? What else?
We offer proposal also. On-site training at basically $50 an hour for the board.
For on-site? Okay, all right. What other concepts do people do? What else do people do for training? How many hours do you put in your proposals average? Rich says he does a lot of the class stuff.
Depends on the client.
Depends on the system.
Yeah.
Okay, so what would that mean?
Look, it's just a basic video toaster, it wouldn't require as much as if it's a complete AV roll editing system with video toaster in it.
Okay,
And you just have to kind of adjust what the customer, what you think the customer needs and what he thinks he needs too.
okay.
We sold Channel 20 a package in Chicago. Now, obviously, they know video, so we didn't have to teach them video, but we gave them 3 days of 8 hours of training on Lightwave.
And how much do you charge for it?
I think that was a pretty good one. That was, it must have come out to be 150 an hour.
Okay, good, good. Good, good. Let me, I'll tell you a little bit about how Alpha does it, just because I know more about that than anyone else, and we steal from what everyone else does to try to figure it out. And I can tell you the mistakes, too. First of all, Alpha had an 8-hour training thing. We charged $200 for installation and then had training at 8 hours at $50. Is it $60 now, Stan, an hour? What is Alpha charging? 75, all right, I like to hear that. $75 an hour, what they're charging, and for 8 hours, and this is on site. And one of the problems we had is we do the installation. The installation was putting all the stuff together in the shop. And then we go out to site, on their site to do training, and we found out that a lot of the training time was actually putting the system into their system. So particularly some of these very fancy post-production houses and whatnot, you could spend 4, 5, 6 hours just getting the system all
Trying to figure
synced
out
and
where
fit
everything's
in.
running, yeah.
Right, so we've, I guess haven't you now made it clear that that's $75 an hour and that is not the training? Is that,
It's $50 an hour to do that install, that portion of it.
okay,
And then $75 for the training, segregated very clearly when install stops and training starts.
$50 an hour for installations, you said?
Same person do both?
Right.
I don't know, maybe that doesn't make sense, but I guess you're getting the
Well, what
money.
would happen is the person would come out there and say there was 8 hours, and he'd come down and he'd sit down and, gee, this wasn't tweaked quite right, we started doing some of that, and the customer's perception was, well, training didn't start until we started training, and he might have spent 2 hours with the system, so it wasn't that underlying, so.
Yeah, sometimes it was just their system was so goofy and wasn't set up right. You know, you can end up doing a lot. So the suggestion there, I guess, if you're doing that kind of stuff, is charged by the hour. Don't get sucked into one fee for that.
Then you said the 75 an hour was based on an 8-hour?
8 hour. And what percentage of quotes go out with training?
All of them.
All of them. What percentage of people buy it?
95%.
About half.
Yeah.
At least half.
It's amazing when you put it in there, what percentage of people buy it. And the people that don't buy it end up buying it eventually. Is that, I mean, you guys help me, because I don't know what's going on that much anymore. Is that right, Jay, Stan? They end up buying it in the end. But there's a perception thing, I think, that goes on here. If you say that it's included in the package, I think people devalue it. They don't think it's worth as much. If you say it's worth $125, they go, it must be. They got the balls to charge that much, it must be good. I mean, think about it. We bought a Mac computer, a year ago or 2 years ago or something like that, and we bought $1,200 worth of training. And I went and got trained on Quark Express. Why in the hell I did that, I don't know. They told me I needed it. And we had like 4 people in this class, and we burnt up that money in 2 seconds. We thought we got a good deal. We thought, well, doesn't everybody pay this much for training? So if you're including it for free, or, hey, let me give you 3 hours to get you started because I'm a good guy and I want the bit so bad that I'll do that, people will follow along with you. If on the other hand you say, yep, I'm the best in Duluth, and I'm all there is, and because I'm the best, you pay $125 an hour. And if you really are the best, if you really have put the time and energy into it, you should be able to get that kind of money.
Another perception thing is telephone support. How you rate your telephone support. I worked at a dealership, they charged $1 a minute. And it was like immediately the number of calls that we spent half an hour finding out who had plugged into the power cord went from like most to none.
Right, right.
Because you teach them over the phone some basic troubleshooting skills that they can take care of.
Right.
And they're paying for it as a part of either their service contract or as a part of their,
Well, good, and how about that? How many people here are offering service contracts? Okay, other than like Gold Service, your own service contract. How do you do that, Steve?
It's kind of a blanket type coverage. We need like schools where they always pay up front. And that'll give them X amount of time. Now, we unfortunately not paying it quite as well as we should. We tend to take a little advantage of it. But it seems to work real well. It gives them this very good comfort zone. So this is great. So later on in the future, I can call and
Yep.
bingo,
Yep.
we're there.
Yep. See, that's why these corporate people aren't buying. Because they don't have this confidence that they're gonna be able to figure it out, or it's still gonna be around, or it's gonna break and they're not gonna be stuck. And a lot of times, money for that, you know, Bill, I bet you know about it, comes out of a different budget. I can't believe I go back to the service department in Elf and I say, what in the hell is this deck from 1982 doing here? And what they say is, we had, you know, replace it with all new innards for $500. And you say, well, you could buy a new one for $280. I know I don't have any money for new stuff, but I got money for repair. And sometimes they have money for service contracts. It's like printing money, being able to do a service contract. And it makes you stand out from the rest of the people. So the point I want to make, I don't know what the right way to do is on this kind of stuff. But I hear so many times people saying, aren't you going to get rid of direct mail? And, you know, there's no margins in the toaster. And, you know, someone bid one out at X% and blah, 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 blah. The point that I want to make here, not only from the other products that we've talked about, but from service, installation, and training is there's a ton of money to make in that area. And what you have to do to be able to make that money is just say, I want it, and to be good enough to be able to actually deliver. But if you understand the toaster, and if you're just willing to stand up and lose a few bids because somebody else did include it in their thing, you can win, and you can make a lot of money on this. So it's there to be made, but it's an attitude. We have to have the attitude that we're winners, that our time is valuable, that we won't take sneebs taking all our time for bad demos, that I'm sorry I don't sell ribbons on the floor anymore because I'm a professional and I'm calling back my customers. You know, it's all there for you to do. And I'll just end by, we'll go on just to a few things here. What's some support stuff, sales support stuff that you can use? First of all, you ought to carry Video Toaster User with you to the bathroom, home with you. You have it at your night table. It is such a great magazine, Video Toaster User. And you gotta have it. You gotta have a bunch of copies. You gotta pass it out to people. It's tremendous credibility. I gave you my list of magazines. I don't care if you read these magazines, but you ought to be reading 10 to a dozen magazines every month. And you ought to read the commercials first, if you really want to know what's going on. We've got in here, if you just want to page with me, some quotes. And let's see, that's under the sales materials section. And I guess this Joel guy over at Alpha has developed a new quote program that maybe you will see someday, but this is the way he does it. He just puts down the total price for the whole thing. Now, if you want to get real fussy, he'll break it into areas. You know, your machines are this much, and your edit control is this much, and blah, 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 and this much. But I would suggest doing that versus listing everything out separately so people can pick it apart and go back and do it.
With education, though, sometimes we have to put in a specific price, even though you made a package price, we can go back and adjust it, make
Yeah.
it look like, you know, we're...
That's okay. Start out this way, and if you need to do it, do it. But anyway, there's a whole bunch of listed quotes here. And I just want to point out some of the things. The cheapest one really is $6,600 for just kind of a basic toaster system. And then, you know, he's got quotes up here, $15,000, $9,000, $32,000, saw quite a few of those. An old letter that we should probably rewrite about installation and training and some of that kind of stuff. But, you know, those are just there in case they can help you. If they can't help you, forget it. You've already gone through the compatibility list, so you can see some of the other products. Hopefully you're aware of some of the training tapes. I saw one deal that was renting training tapes. I thought that was kind of a good idea. I don't know, maybe you don't want to do that. We've got a toaster checklist and a toaster test in here. If you were interested in going back and having something that you could give to the rest of your employees in terms of how to use a toaster, there's some suggestions for you. We've got some user group newsletters in the marketing section. And just to give you an idea of what some of the different video toaster user groups are doing. Toasterholics and Tools of Louisville, and yeah.
Lawyers, legalities, do you get involved in legal terms and conditions of sales? Do you get involved with legal
That's a great
contracts
question.
with your salespeople?
No, Mr. Johnson there after lunch.
Okay.
Oh, you mean, I'm sorry, with,
Do you have your salespeople sign non-competitive clauses? Do you put legal terms and conditions in with a quote? You know, those kinds of things.
I'll tell you what, we're late and I'll let you ask that question to Reed.
All right.
Although it is kind of a sales thing. User group letters, and then you've gotten all the other stuff here. So, you know, if you haven't gotten some of these things, pick them up as you come up. So I'll just conclude by saying, because this is the last you're going to hear from me, I think there's a tremendous potential to make money on the video toaster. That you guys are all still early. The products are there. There's ways to make the margins. There's a huge marketplace still. We've just barely started in terms of the potential marketplace. But it's really up to you to decide how much you want to dedicate, how much you want to go after. Nobody can tell you that. But if you do decide to go after it, I don't think you'll be disappointed. I think you'll have a great chance of not only surviving, but thriving in the 1990s. But it's all in your hands. And how successful you are, it's there for you to do. All we can do is give you the tools and whatnot, and I hope you're all successful, because we want to make a ton more money selling a ton more toasters. So I hope, and we will continue to hope that all of you are successful. And for putting up with us, as you walk out, we have these lovely bags for you to put some of this information in. All right? So pick one up as you go.
George, I got that phone number.
Excuse me, Mark,
one
two more things.
Logistics, lunch is next downstairs by the pool. Checkout time is at noon here. For those of you who want to extend that, I give the front desk a call. They're usually pretty good about it.
I talked to them, they're sold out tonight, so they need us to get out of the rooms as quickly as possible.
Forget what I just said.
So we bring our suitcases up here?
Okay.
You can bring, I would check your bags. That's probably the best thing.
Check your bags at the front desk, and I would do that before you come down to the lunch.
That's gasp of this new Tech U. Before I get into the logistics of what we're going to talk about here today, I understand there's a few people who did not get blue bags. Is that right? How many is that? A couple? Okay. We'll get some more over. There have been a couple of requests for different tapes that we've shown during the new Tech U, and I think most of them have been here. The one I know that's not been here, that's getting duplicated and brought over, is the few tapes of the Video Toaster show. The tape that George and I showed the other day. I think that's being brought over in a bit. Yeah. Testimonials tape. Jay, is that here? The users?
User's perspective
Yeah.
is over in the other room. They should probably already have those. If you
Okay.
don't, there's extra copies.
Okay, so what tapes do we have here already?
Well, they've got the two Marty tapes,
Okay,
right? John's grab bag, which is his demo tape.
right.
Okay. Then we had the Alpha Toaster World, which was our kind of user's tape.
Yeah.
What else was there?
You have an NBC clip there.
There's one for Sundance.
Yeah,
Sundance, you got the Sundance videos.
Question was on the NBC News report.
Yeah, that's user's perspective, which is next, or no, I'm sorry, the NBC News. We don't have any of those.
Okay, we'll take names for that and send them. Okay. Is there any other logistical stuff, materials or stuff that people are missing or want yet? Okay, because the Toaster World tapes, Toaster Show tapes are coming.
Posters and the tubes. The tubes.
Okay, yeah, and the tubes for the posters, what our assistants called said they should be here in roughly an hour or so. So by the end of this session, the tubes should be here and you can take the posters with you. Okay. The purpose of this session is really had its birth in one of the first professional association shows that I attended. It was with a specific manufacturer, and everybody, all of the dealers came to this function. It was a part of a trade show, and what basically happened is that we all were wined and dined and thanked and so forth, and then they set aside some time to take questions from the dealers, and many of us had specific things we wanted to ask, and really that opportunity, even though it was on the agenda, it never really appeared, and it just went away, and it left me feeling very frustrated. And in the first New Tech U that we did, we set aside a time period that started at 10 in the morning, and it went till 3 in the afternoon of saying, all right, let's get everybody's questions, and let's put them up on the board and try to answer them one by one and make sure that everybody's questions are answered. And
we ended up with a whole wall full of questions. And as subsequent time has gone by, we've addressed a number of the issues that people have raised, but there still are, I know, a number of things we can do better or a number of questions that are on your mind. So the next 90 minutes, and in the last two sessions it hasn't taken that long, but I'll stay here as long as you want me to. What I want to do is get all of your unanswered questions, difficult, impossible, insignificant, or whatever, up on a board and answer them all one by one. And what I encouraged one group to do was take a piece of paper and on the back of it, a big piece, write the initials BS. And if you ever thought that my answer was drifting into some kind of corporate ease or something, just hold it up and I'll try to get back to the point. But I really don't want anyone leaving here with a sense that we're trying to hide something or that we're trying to dodge an issue that's very important to you. Coming from a dealership myself, I know how important these kinds of things are and some business issues are. These are issues that affect your livelihood, and we don't want to dodge them. We want to address them and give you the best answer we possibly can as of July 22nd, 1992. So let's get some questions up, and then we'll get into answering them. At lunch today, the question I had was, how will New Tech determine who gets authorized in a market? In other words, how will I know who's going to be competing against me and how those decisions be made? Other questions?
How much time are you gonna have the workstation on?
Okay. Lifespan of workstation.
Also, will there be more powerful workstations or better packages of workstations released as prior stations?
Different SKUs.
Better.
Are you guys planning on going direct to dealers?
Selling direct.
What do you do
Support of other products. Okay. Rich?
If and when you drop the workstation,
Yeah.
do you still maintain an 800 number for tech support?
Others?
Similar requirements.
I'd like to know reasons for keeping the workstation as opposed to reasons for getting rid of it. What is the reasoning behind that decision?
Okay. Yep.
Someone mentioned that y'all had some refurbished boards that are being made available in the market. How are those being
Okay.
brought to market?
$3,000 board?
Okay, in specific, what do you mean?
Is it gonna be out soon, or when is it gonna be out?
Okay.
3,000.
Okay. How about we'll expand that to other products, and I'll specifically mention the 3,000. What other products does NewTek have coming?
Yeah. Other of us would be expected or
Others?
Based on that first question, when are you?
Okay. Yeah.
How does a non-equipment dealer compete with those that do? In the sense of having access to the video equipment. When I'm a toaster dealer and I'm not a dealer for the other stuff, how do I compete against those that do? Or those that may be authorized in my area against me?
Is it specifically in your cases of video gear?
Video.
Other questions about anything? Marketing? Other things that are on your mind? Yeah.
I'd just like to know how serious, I know you guys view our opinions seriously, and like the other night, we all voted that we'd like 3.0 release in parts.
Right.
And if you, I don't know, if you guys release it all as a package, does that mean that you don't, what does that mean? You know what I'm saying? I don't want to write that down. I don't even know if it's really it's pretty abstract, but I just mean, does that mean you're not taking our suggestions if it's released as a whole, seeing as we all voted on it
Sure.
unanimously?
Yes. Yes.
What will happen to mail order and we'll have to still be in the market, we can cut out American microbases.
Okay, it seems like there's two questions. One is, what is going to be our policy in the future on mail order, and the other is, how are we going to handle selling direct or distribution?
And not only that, but there's a lot of mail orders right now. Are they going to be not sold to? Are they going to not be able to resell some toasters? It's just going to be the dealers and get it limited to the dealers?
Okay. What does authorized program mean? Yeah, that was kind of a, we'll hit them both with the answer.
What are your guidelines for a dealer?
heard rumor about audio support in the toaster. Any idea when, if, like what upgrade that's going to be coming out with Toaster 3.0, Toaster 1.0? Okay. Separate product.
Along without any.
The audio would be easier to drink, not just like right.
Other?
What does Newtek see themselves as doing or selling 5 years from now?
How many countries will
Others? Okay, if other questions occur to you while we're going along, we'll get them up on the board and address them. Different than the first time, right, Rich? How many questions do we have?
That many?
Yeah.
How many?
Russell Wall?
No.
That's why he's back, he didn't get an answer.
There's a question for you. What kind of questions we're asking?
Okay. Can you please go over all those questions that you had then?
No, that's not the idea. Go on to.
Okay, let me, let's see. The authorized network stuff.
And reseller requirements.
Okay, I'll start with that one, and we'll do a preamble to it. When Tim and Paul asked us to join them, they said, what do we need to make this thing successful? And we gave our opinions. Our first opinion was that margins on the toaster had to be improved. Our second opinion was we need to put in place an authorized reseller program so that we're not eating our young out there. And third thing we started to branch off into was what can we do to offer other products to customers who want to buy not only the toaster but accelerators and so forth and so on. The place we were coming from was that in America it's awfully difficult to buy and sell a toaster, and that there were, while the product was terrific, there were some disincentives for dealers to want to get involved. And we started our involvement with Tim and Paul on kind of a part-time basis last summer. And the first thing we did was we spent 3 months basically collecting all of the data that was inside Newtek. Leads, requests from dealers, and all kinds of stuff, and just getting things organized. And we launched off into this notion of setting up an authorized dealer channel. Our prejudice is, George and mine, and it's been accepted by Tim and Paul, that what we need to do is have an environment where we can, as a manufacturer and as a dealer, control the point of sale of the product. What we found were, and it's no secret to any of you, was that there were too often times where good people were putting in a lot of effort towards selling the product, and somebody who just hung up a shingle and claimed to be a reliable competitor would screw up the sale. And we also found that with the birth of the Revolution tape program, with all of the end users calling up and saying, we would like to see a demonstration of this product, we were getting an uncomfortably high number of people who would call back and said, I went to the dealer closest to me and they couldn't show me the product. So what we suggested was we need, first of all, to go out and visit everybody who we possibly can who's a reseller of the product. That list took a while to compile because we don't, as the manufacturer, have any direct sales reports on where the toaster card is sold. So what we did is, from inquiries into dealership applications, from inquiries at trade shows, from what people had filled out on their reg cards of people who had already bought the toaster, we assembled a list of it's roughly 450 groups, agencies, however you want to call it, names, in the United States today that say they are reselling the toaster in one form or fashion. And this summer, what we're doing is we're going through and visiting. I would guess it'll end up being about 85% of that group. The reason we don't get to the other 15% is just territorial geographic logistics. And what we're finding in that process is that our assumptions were correct. That there are some people who are doing amazing things to support the toaster, and there are some people who are doing some amazing things on the negative side. And our plan is by this fall, our internal target date is October 1st. I think a more probably realistic date to say publicly is probably by the end of the year. We will have a complete authorized reseller program so that people will have a neon sign or a sticker or something in their window that says NewTek approved authorized reseller, and they will be the only ones allowed to resell the video toaster card. Now the reason it takes so long is because we've got a heck of a lot of territory to cover. We've got some logistics that we have to put in place in the meantime. One of the logistics deals with our distributors. One of the logistics is determining who should get authorized in a market. One of them is what should the reseller requirements be, and what do we expect of the dealers. Here is our present thinking right now, and I'll be very surprised if this changes substantially. What the reseller requirements will be that in each individual reseller's location, they have to have somebody and a demo system that can handle an end user's request to learn about video toaster. Seems simple enough. How do you get to that? Well, you have to buy a demo system, and you have to have somebody from your dealership come to NewTek-U. That's the litmus test for us. Beyond that, there will be no other specific buy-in requirements or anything of that nature to become authorized. This is in part comes from Tim's philosophy on sales. But basically, he feels more comfortable doing it that way. So, what will, in terms of, okay, how do I become a dealer? Have you gone to NewTek-U? Right here, yes. Do you have a demo system that's up and running, and you can always show somebody who comes into the dealership the demo? Yes. Okay. Then, what will happen? We're also, because we're having to become a real honest-to-goodness sales operation, going to have people in the field who will call on you and be your, whatever you want to call it, your rep, your whatever. And that individual rep will sit down with you and talk about what your business plan is for the year. How many units do you think you can sell? How are you going to sell? What kind of marketing support will you have? What kind of training efforts are you doing? And what it most likely will be a year-by-year agreement by which, if you're doing a good job reselling the toaster and and you're happy with NewTek and how we're providing the product and marketing and lead support to you, then that relationship will continue. It's no big mystery. I mean, if you're doing a good job of making money on the toaster, that's great for us. If you're not, we're going to have to look at why that is, why there's a problem. Yes.
In the beginning, you said the problem was you guys were just hung up a shingle and pronouncing on the video after
Right.
bring that up, because I have exactly the same information from the operation. Say, me, demonstrating his own video toaster, was working out of his house, so the ability to still run the operation.
Right. Now that gets to the next point. That gets to a point of, obviously we can't be brainless idiots in terms of how we determine who gets authorized in a specific area. That's why we felt it was real important to go around the country and see what the heck's going on out there. You've heard us use this phrase a couple of times. The United States is in different time zones in terms of the NewTek revolution, desktop video revolution. It could be that somebody with the qualifications, as ghastly as they sounded, that you described in one market is our best choice in that market. It could very well be that that person wouldn't stand a chance, given the scrutiny that will come between now and what I hope is October 1st. Let me give you an example of a market. This is a real major metropolitan area within the top 10 markets of the United States of America. There is, in this marketplace, one dealership here that is primarily a Amiga-based dealership. They are selling an absolute ton of toasters. There is a bedroom community outside this major metropolitan area here that has a video dealership. That is doing a reasonably good job of reselling toasters. There are applications from another bedroom community dealer here, about 7 or 8 small computer-oriented dealerships here. This is a video dealership. And this is a community that has, it says in the top 10, I guess its population is somewhere between 4 and 6 million. So compare that to where you are. And our thought right now is that we will authorize this person. We'll authorize this person. And then I visited all the rest of these folks. And there is none of these people were strong in video. Talk to this person. They were strong in video and had plans to set up a downtown office. We said, we think that's a great idea. We'll support you, and you go ahead and go after that. I mean, I don't want to carry this out, but the characteristics of these two dealerships were that they rarely competed with one another. This was much more a gear seller This was much more a system sell. And those of you who are in the video business know the distinctions between those. Had I come across another strong Amiga-based dealership on the southwest part of town, I would have felt inclined towards also authorizing them. But we had to look at this specific market. What are the needs of the market? Who do these individual clients serve? And what is the real hope of these people here? Now, a couple of these were literally gentlemen in their houses. One was a graphics company. I walked up to the second floor of their office park where they were in and brought along the user's tape. I asked them, I said, let's look at this tape together, and they couldn't figure out how to get their VCR to work. Okay? So what we basically do is look at the size of the market. It's which equals potential for dollars. We look at who's there now and who do they serve and their potential. And the last thing, and we look at a lot of other things obviously, but the last thing that's a primary thing is do they get it? And then we make a determination in a market. What we also have to do in market by market is see what is the economic health of that market. I was in Washington, D.C. and Baltimore 2 weeks ago. And as many of you know, Washington business is primarily a bid business. Most everything goes through the government there or some government-connected agency. So we needed different kinds of dealerships there. That's just an example to kind of explain how we'll go through and determine things. Now, I'll get to your question, but there's a couple of points here. Will we call you up and say, hey, new tech dealer, we are considering putting another dealer on in your area. Do we have your permission? No, we'll not do that. Will we come into town face to face and say, we're here, we're probably going to be adding somebody and this is our reasons for doing it? Probably, I hope so. I hope that's what we do. Will we hear a story from a dealer who says, there's a guy, figuratively, across the street from me, who's a real bad apple and he's selling your product? Are we going to be interested in that kind of a story? Absolutely. And try to figure out what to do. Okay, there were some questions that were popping up. Yeah.
I was wondering if you were basing, it seems to me that you're basing that more on quantity than quality. Would you support a small operation if their quality was good and all their customers were happy? Relatively small, not really small. But, you know.
It's a balancing act, frankly. The fact of the matter is, the way New Tech is, we err more on the side of this than this. Do they get it? Do they seem to be really enthusiastic? Do they have any cool stories to tell? You know, I'm a sales manager, and I get asked that more often than I get asked, how are we going to do this month? That's the tenor of New Tech. But quality is incredibly important to Tim and Paul, and we're going to have to get through it. I'm guessing that our authorized dealership channel won't be as good as it should be for probably a couple of years. Because probably for every 4 dealers we sign up, we'll make a mistake on a 5th. But we'll do the best we can, obviously.
Yeah. Do you have any projections for volume of sales, like versus obviously the resellers will be selling a little more, but I mean there's going to be a lot of small companies that are going to have these, they're fully authorized, came to New Tech U, they want to sell a lot, but they're not going to move that high of a volume.
Right.
Do you anticipate that outgrowing the number you're gonna allow to resell? You know, do you understand
No,
what I'm
it is,
asking?
you know, it all depends
And
on
that's-
the health of the, you know, what's going on in the market. I mean, there is just so much business out there right now. Pie is huge, and it just, the fraction has been tapped. I mean, we've got a whole, the whole, that I haven't mentioned, there's a whole other part of the authorized channel, which will be authorized VARs. These are groups of individuals who are value-added resellers, who take the product and make a modification on it or change it in a fashion and have a specific marketing plan to sell into a very specific market. 3,000 is a political issue that it's just up to Tim and Paul for them to decide when they want to do it. It's there, ready to go. They've got some business decisions in their mind about whether or not they want to even do it or not. Here's what I predict you will see to be able to sell by the end of the year. I'm not putting dates by this. I'm just telling you this is my opinion of what I think is going to happen this year. I think you're going to find there's going to be some sort of effects pack that'll be out there. Probably not design your own, but probably a few banks. Try that, see how that goes. Certainly, the Mac product will be out there. Some kind of lightweight improvement, possibly. And the thing I'm less sure of is 3,000. In terms of the other questions about I don't foresee these coming. VHS audio and editing, I don't foresee those coming by the end of the year. That's my opinion. This could change.
3.0?
No. I think one of the reasons that you would not see a 3.0 by the end of the year is because they're listening and they want to try to do some of this stuff and see how this goes. Yeah.
Is the 3,000 just faster than the 2,000, like a 386 to a 286 if we're speaking of IBMs? Is there any major difference?
Yeah, there are substantial differences in not only its performance but also the marketing perception of the units. And I just pull one of your Amiga colleagues aside here and ask them about that. I'm a fan of the 3000 because I think it looks like a cooler machine, and it's like a late 80s machine and an early 80s machine. For what it's worth.
When you're talking about editing, are you talking about just controlling someone else's machine, or are you going to do something about machines too? What are we talking about?
The best way to describe the difference, what's coming up next in terms of the next big thing out of NewTek, is that this is DigiView, and it was a giant leap to the video toaster. The next thing that's released, I don't know that it'll be called 3.0 or whatever it is, the next big thing out of NewTek. Here. Big thing. Okay? And my opinion is, knowing a limited amount about what BT is that it will once again revolutionize the marketplace and be an incredible product for us to sell. And that the people who are trying to compete with NewTek today don't have a clue in terms of what they're doing. Because the idea for the video toaster was born by Tim and Paul in like 1985. So what we're selling today is their vision of what can be created in 1985. And this thing, and what our competitors are doing right now, is they're saying, we got to figure out a way to copy this great new idea. They're doing it now, and they're doing it differently, and when this thing comes out, they'll go, what was I thinking? That's my sense. And you heard Paul talk about what his vision is. Remember what he said? Be able to do everything all in one box, under $10,000. Just take everything that you've heard in bits and pieces, put it in your mind, and dream along.
Question.
Yes.
If and when the SVHS, the audio and editing come out, are those upgradable from what the boards we have now, or
Yes.
what we sell?
Yes. Yes, that's the thinking today. Okay. Support of other products through distribution. We originally, when we had our dream list of what we wanted to do in our company, we thought that we would become a distributor of not only the video toaster, but associated desktop video products. We went down that road and stopped, and decided that for now the marketplace is going to have to do that. We are revisiting the journey down that road because some of the roadblocks that were there, we figured out ways of going around. But I think what you're going to see is either NewTek or somebody else coming up with a company that is a desktop video distribution company that can provide not only toasters, but accelerators and so forth. Micropace is making moves in that direction. The big question mark is video products. Kind of gets to your question. I'm convinced somewhere somebody is going to work out an arrangement with one of the major manufacturers to offer to desktop video dealers a major video line at competitive prices. I mean, it just makes sense in the marketplace. It just makes sense. Frankly, there's nothing prohibiting any one of you in this room from doing it if you have resources to do it, and inclination to do it. It's out there. If you do not, just answering your question, if you do not have video resources right now, I can only tell you what I know about what's happened in the market. And that is, here's an example. In Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, there's a dealer that is a small computer dealer, Amiga based, that has partnered up with a video dealer in town. And every time they put together a system, they sell it as an all-in-one, and they've worked out a gentleman's arrangement back at home how to split up the dough. They've also worked out an arrangement for who fixes stuff when it breaks. I know of some smaller computer dealers who have been able to pick up one line, one part of an industrial line and support that. That's the best thing. That's in terms of if you want to provide the whole system. In this scenario that I had back here of that fictitious market, that one Amiga dealership that was up in town selling tons didn't sell solutions. They sold just the video toaster and whatever stuff went inside that system and provided recommendations for where to go in terms of buying the rest of the video equipment. That group right there, that dealership is probably selling right now 2 a week, video toaster systems.
So they just do a referral, they don't get any kind of arrangements or anything like that, they have
They don't get, no, they don't get any, as I understand, no money changes hands.
commissions or any kind of.
Right. But what I also know is that the video dealer in town, if anyone comes into their offices and says, I want to buy a video toaster system, what can you show me? He sets them there first. I mean, so much of life, and one of the reasons why we want to put this authorized dealer network together, so much of life is people talking to people about how you can work together in business. I was just enormously frustrated in Washington, D.C., just inordinately. There were 3 very strong Commodore dealers carrying the toaster within 4 blocks of one another. And they were absolutely eating their young. They were just killing each other. So do you ever get together and chat? Talk about it. How you're going to handle it. Ah! Don't do it, competitors. There's a far cry from price fixing and being smart businessmen. Far cry. Okay, we got to that one. That one fits. How will updates be handled? Who asked that question? I'm trying to make sure I remember what it is. How will updates be handled? I'll skip over it for a bit. Co-op MDF policy. I wasn't here for the entire thing this morning, but I hope this is what we were told. We don't have a co-op policy right now. My personal prejudice, as is George's, is we don't like co-op policies. I hate them. They are just throwing money out in a number by number manner. Our experiences was that January 15th, we'd hear from Panasonic how much co-op money we had for that year, and we had to spend it by February 15th, and everybody found out that information at the same time, and everybody's co-op funds had to be approved by Maureen in Atlantic City or wherever she was located. You could never get a hold of her, and finally you got down to the deadline, and so you bought 4 gazillion Panasonic cups so you didn't waste your money. What we want to do is see what happens in each individual market and do things that make sense for the dealerships, in part based upon what their sales are and in part based upon whether they get it and how hard they're trying. And in terms of those of you who study business and major corporations know that most companies, the rule of thumb is that you allocate roughly 4% of your sales volume towards marketing. Some companies do a little bit less, some companies do a little bit more. NewTek's expenditure on marketing is way, way, way beyond that. I think that the Revolution Tape campaign was incredibly important to the dealer channel. And if we marked that off against co-op funds, everybody owe us money. You know. We will have a policy together. Frankly, there are some dealerships that could use a tremendous amount of help in putting on a show. There are other dealerships that would just as soon help us figure out how to redress their storefront. Those are the kinds of things we want to be involved in a much more dealer-by-dealer level. No one who's involved in this adventure with NewTek, I believe, and has an open mind, is going to be disappointed by our marketing support of your agency. Authorized service centers. The service is the area I would say that we are most behind in terms of planning on. It is just something that as long as we are able to take cards and replace them, is not getting a high priority within NewTek right now. We all believe in the eventuality of having an authorized service center that says you've gone to NewTek, you know, Tweak the Toaster School, and you can repair these and charge money for it. we know that in most dealerships, service organizations are not profit centers. They're break even at best. And we're focusing on areas where people are making their money first. And as long as we're doing a reasonably good job of trading out cards, we're going to do that for a short time being. That's where our policy is service. Audio support MIDI, I think we answered that. That's moving down the road. Future of NewTek in 5 years. One of the things that Paul Montgomery said in that NBC News report is America lost its lead in the consumer electronics business. We're going to reclaim it. Tim and Paul, in a number of public gatherings, have said that their business strategy is, always has been, to capture the high end first, and then the middle market, and then here's consumers. I believe that's the direction that Tim and Paul want to take the company. The one wild card that I don't know about is Tim and Paul are dreaming up other products. So, and where those come and what they do. I mean, where would you sell Frankie the robot? But they're doing all kinds of stuff. Go back and look at that NBC report. There's a shot of Paul Montgomery walking down a hallway. It's a dark hallway. See what was above him?
The light was
Yeah,
falling. It's falling.
little robotic light on a track that's following him. Yeah. So he walks down the hall. Oh, come here, light. Light follows him. That's just Tim and Paul tinkering around doing stuff. You should see that they're in Topeka. We're in one building right now, or not just one, but the research and development group is in one building. They're moving to a separate newer facility, and the plan they have for how they're going to light that is just incredible. Okay, other stuff that I either BS'd or avoided, or the questions that have come to you since then, and then we've got some stuff, less stuff to give away. Yeah.
There's one more question.
Yeah.
NewTek dealers, how soon do you get leads?
Oh, how soon can we get leads? I had hoped that we'd physically give them to you right now, but I guess they weren't ready. You should get them. We do a mailing of leads once a month at the start of the month, and everyone here should be getting them who has not ever gotten NewTek leads. Okay.
In the mail.
You should be getting them. I would guess the first week of August. I'm surprised they're not here. Yes.
What can the people who have never sold an Amiga toaster expect in the coming months, as far as setup goes? Are people going to visit us and evaluate us, like you said, for the see if we're qualified toaster dealers?
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, eventually, by the end of the summer, someone will pay a call and say hello. One person asked me, will I be authorized automatically by coming to NewTek University? And the practical answer is yes. We looked at the applicants for this session, and in the back of our minds said, do they look like it's someone we're going to want to do business with, and we wanted to encourage them to come. If you go out and become a Buddhist leper and decide that that's what your future is after NewTek we might change our minds.
Could we draw back on the authorized service for just a second?
Authorized service question.
Even though you're changing out boards, should the dealer be involved in changing out boards? We've got customers that prefer for us to change their board out and work with you.
Right.
Rather than send you back to NewTek and you change that and try to keep it. Is that something that's being considered?
What did they tell you in the service?
It didn't even come up, I don't guess, huh?
Really? Okay, I'm surprised at that.
I would, on a by serial number basis, they prefer, especially if they've already filled out a warranty registration card, considering it's usually a 24 to 48 hour turnaround time, sends the coaster back. No expense
Correct.
whatsoever.
We've got a lot of customers out there that don't want to open the door on.
We burn in our system just to make sure they've got a functioning coaster before it goes out the door, just to avoid a situation like that.
I would,
If it craps out 30 days later.
That's not your
I
fault.
prefer to not guess on that.
We prefer to take care of our customers.
Yeah. And I know Alpha has made decisions that it was not gonna send it back, was just gonna do their own work on it, swap it out, and so forth. So
Normally, it's new tech.
I don't know what the policy is. I'll find out. Get back. Yes, Bill?
Right, leads for just a minute. If you've
Yes.
got two dealers in a given area, who gets the leads?
What basically we do is in the primary market area, if there are two dealers in the area, you get identical leads. And it's up to you guys to do your best.
How does
Skip?
that goes out by zip code or what?
We originally broke them out by telephone area code, and now as we're getting a little bit better, we're throwing away our crayons and we're going by zip code. Yeah. I mean, it was an absolute zoo for us in the nation of California. We just didn't know what to do. Yes.
I'm not, when I call it micro space or whatever they're calling it.
Micro pace.
Okay, micro pace. They said that I can't buy an Amiga computer unless I'm authorized by Commodore. And having talked to Newtek, they said we are closing out all our workstations. The only ones that are left are the 52, 7 megabytes. Once they're done, they're done.
Right.
So right now, I can go to MicroSpace and buy a toaster, but I'm not authorized with Commodore. So what am I going to do about trying to sell a person a workstation together?
You need to get authorized by Commodore.
It's not hard. These days, it's not hard. Being an aggregate dealer is very easy. Talk to me.
Yeah, I would talk to one of your colleagues. That isn't the hard part. Did you grab the diplomas off the table?
Yeah.
You got
Ready to do that?
Yes. You want to bring them up? And the last bit of, hang on, everybody. Great.
Your local aggregator, it's not about
What about the,
Oh.
the gold node?
You want to come up? Yeah,
There must be, I'm an aggregator, we didn't know the aggregator.
Your last official parting gift, in addition to a diploma and a poster with a tube in it, is the official. As you get your thing, you've got to get your shirt. So who's got it? Right there, right?
Right here.
Where's the next one?
Gary Smith.
Wait. Yes, it is.
Gary's not here.
Just like the
Gary's not here.
Gary Smith? Gary's not here right now.
Jeff Asbury.
I'm right here. All right.
Gary Sullivan.
Here.
Spelled correct.
Thank you.
If
Rich
your name
Davis.
isn't spelled
Spelled
right.
Spelled.
My name isn't spelled. If it's not spelled correctly, let me know and we'll get you a different one.
Ray Kuhn's up here. He's Saavedra.
Slow down, Steve. You're way ahead of me here. You're way ahead of me.
Chuck Schenk, right there.
Two for you.
Go.
Chuck. Right. George is.
Oh, excuse me.
Bill? Yes. No. Give me a shirt. Roy Schroyer. Right there. Otto. Skip Jones. John Wood. Over there. There.
Put it on my desk.
Bill Williams.
Pete. And not me, Larry.
I've been here before.
Larry.
Jeff, why don't you let me have one?
I graduated from one earlier. Thank you. What's wrong with you?
Well, I got some of mine here.
Somebody wants this. That's okay. Here you go, guys. Mine just don't.
Let somebody take mine.
You already found somebody take mine.
I'm an outside salesman, I don't know anything. So
Anybody take mine. David Keith.
Dave.
Sorry. And Dan Sorensen. Is that it? Lynn Willis.
And you sit
Duck,
up.
Duck.
Can I get a?
That shows you.
Lynn Willis.
Need a post card.
Debbie Willis. Did they have to leave early? Really? We'll send them. Confident.
Yeah.
Derek Stewart. Here. Derek, way to go, Derek. Jeff Hoffman. Everybody get one? Hey, 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 hey. Glad that wasn't a poster, huh? Okay, I gotta get one to Billy. Okay. I'll have Joe make that. Billy, is it in there? There you go. Did you get your t-shirt and everything? T-shirt? Where's missing? Right here. Okay, did everybody get a tube? Everybody got a t-shirt? Wait a minute, wait a minute. There was a small one sitting in here. Thought I saw that.
Great. Okay, thank you, everybody, for coming to New Tech U, and would encourage you to stay in touch, because we will, as this adventure continues. And the one thing that a couple of folks have said in earlier sessions that proved to be very valuable is that stay in touch with some of your colleagues that you've met here. Their information is power in our business, and I hope you take advantage of the opportunity to share some of what's going on. I think our next big function as a group of thieves will be at the Comdex show in November, and probably another gathering of our dealership base at the NAB next spring. So thank you, everybody, for coming to New Tech U.
There is the latest version of Video Toaster users on the table outside also. Thank you. Glad to have you. Good luck. Ready? Actually, I'm not. Okay.
That was one of my favorites.
Good seeing you. You too.
Bill?
Every time I see you, you're wearing a new hat. Is this going to stop at some point?
Never, never.
That's what we do.
Looking for Donetta? She just Thanks.
Yeah, limits of liability is $500. Probably keep that.
Yeah, I think power to my pencil there.
You bet. Nice meeting all of you. Good luck with the toaster.
Yeah, I think there were some good things.
Come on. We don't get the rail on the second thing. Yes, thanks a lot.
Yeah, I'll do it. I didn't know about this. Look at this. It had stopped on me too. What have we done?
I'm not betting that, but I've been on the road. And I know
Did you get any of the demo? Did you miss the demo? The demo, what's his name is going through the demo. We've got pointing on the screen and all that. You remember that one?
Oh, yeah, Randall.
I got that.
problem.
Sure.
Just the last half hour, all the questions on.
He's a graphic.
Oh, I didn't get that.
So the things that he could should be.
Sure.
Carter, by any
Great,
chance?
great.
Okay. See it.
Also just trying to.
That's
Right.
Essential part of any direct toaster chips. These chips are also in by we're not really concerned about these. Right now, they're doing very little. And 2000 they're selling yeah, you would contact.
We have a supervised, quote system all time. And it's got a form, customized form that you can set up your form. So you can set it up like an invoice, you know.
And it does have a database of products and
Yeah,
pricing.
you set all that up, you enter new products whenever they come in, you just got new data entry, new product, new price.
When you say relation, I mean, if the.
Okay, all right, thanks, guys.
Able to draw from the. I was curious, selling the toasters,
I mean, it's not a perfect.
it meets.
Same, thanks for coming.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
You took me or
Chuck?
Council, yeah.
Ed?
Right, and, you know, we tried like to look at
Right.
we know why we